The morning sun filtered through the worn cotton curtains of Anna's small home, casting long shadows across the clay tile floor. It was supposed to be a day like any other in the quiet village of San Miguel. Anna moved around her kitchen, humming softly as she prepared breakfast, the familiar routine offering comfort in its simplicity. Her daughter, Lucia, should have been up by now, racing into the kitchen with her endless energy and questions about the day ahead. "Lucia?" Anna called out, wiping her hands on her apron. "Time to get up, my sunshine." The silence that answered her wasn't unusual. Lucia had been tired lately. The 6-year-old had complained of headaches 3 days ago, but children got sick sometimes. It was normal. Anna had given her some herbal tea and extra rest, and yesterday, Lucia had seemed a little better. Anna walked down the short hallway to her daughter's room. The wooden door creaked as she pushed it open. "Lucia, you'll be late for school." The small figure under the colorful blanket didn't stir. Anna felt the first flutter of worry in her chest. She crossed the room quickly and placed her hand on her daughter's forehead. The heat radiating from Lucia's skin made Anna pull her hand back in shock. It was like touching a pot left too long on the stove. "Lucia? Lucia, wake up." Anna shook her daughter gently, then with more urgency. The child's eyes fluttered but didn't open fully. A small moan escaped her lips. Fear gripped Anna's heart. She scooped Lucia into her arms, alarmed at how the child's head lolled lifelessly against her shoulder. Lucia had always been small for her age, but now she felt fragile, like a bird with hollow bones. "Don't worry, my love, Mama's here," Anna whispered, though her voice shook. She grabbed a shawl to wrap around Lucia and hurried out the door. The village of San Miguel sat nestled in a valley, surrounded by mountains that seemed to cradle the collection of simple homes and businesses. It was a place where everyone knew each other, where doors remained unlocked and where neighbors were family. But it was also a place far from modern conveniences, including proper health care. Anna rushed down the dirt road, her feet kicking up dust as she cradled Lucia against her chest. She headed straight for Don Pablo's house. He wasn't a real doctor. The nearest one was in the city, a 3-hour drive away, but he had been a medic in the army and knew more about medicine than anyone else in San Miguel. People stepped aside as Anna ran past, concern etching their faces as they recognized the bundle in her arms. "Anna, what's happened?" called out Rosa from her garden. "It's Lucia," Anna managed to say without stopping. "She's burning with fever." Word spread quickly through the village. By the time Anna reached Don Pablo's small blue house at the edge of town, the old man was already at his door, medical bag in hand. "Bring her inside," he said, his weathered face serious as he held the door open. Inside, Don Pablo cleared his kitchen table with one sweep of his arm, sending papers and cups clattering to the floor. "Put her here," he instructed. Anna placed Lucia on the hard wooden surface, reluctant to let go even for a moment. The child's breathing had become shallow and rapid. "How long has she been like this?" Don Pablo asked, placing his stethoscope against Lucia's chest. "She complained of headaches a few days ago, but nothing serious. This morning I couldn't wake her properly." Anna's voice caught in her throat. "She was better yesterday, I thought." Don Pablo nodded, his experienced hands moving efficiently as he examined the little girl. His frown deepened as he checked her pupils, felt her rigid neck. "The fever is very high," he said. "Too high. And there are other signs that worry me." Anna clutched the edge of the table. "What signs? What's wrong with her?" "I think it might be an infection in her brain, meningitis or encephalitis. She needs antibiotics, proper care. She needs a hospital, Anna." The words fell like stones. The nearest hospital was in the city. Even if someone from the village could drive them, would Lucia survive the journey? "We have to try," Anna said, already gathering Lucia back into her arms. The next hours passed in a blur. Miguel, who owned the only working truck in the village, offered to drive them. Anna sat in the back, holding Lucia wrapped in wet cloths to try to bring down her fever. Every bump in the rough mountain road was agony. Every minute that passed was both too fast and too slow. Halfway to the city, Lucia began to convulse. Her small body jerked and trembled in Anna's arms. "Drive faster," Anna cried out, trying to hold her daughter steady. Miguel pressed harder on the accelerator, the old truck groaning as it pushed up the steep mountain road. "Stay with me, Lucia," Anna whispered into her daughter's ear. "Please, my love, stay with me." But by the time they reached the outskirts of the city, Lucia had gone still. Too still. Her breathing had stopped, and no matter how Anna pleaded and shook her, she wouldn't respond. Miguel drove straight to the hospital emergency entrance. Doctors rushed out with a stretcher, taking Lucia from Anna's arms. She ran alongside them as they wheeled her daughter inside, her heart pounding with fear and hope. They worked on Lucia for 20 minutes. Anna stood against the wall of the emergency room, her hands pressed to her mouth, praying to every saint she knew. But in the end, the doctor turned to her with the news that would shatter her world. "I'm very sorry," he said gently. "We did everything we could, but your daughter is gone." Anna couldn't comprehend the words at first. Gone? How could Lucia be gone? Just 3 days ago she had been playing in the yard, chasing butterflies and laughing. "There must be a mistake," Anna said, her voice barely audible. "Please check again." The doctor placed a hand on her shoulder. The infection was too severe, too advanced. Her brain had swollen beyond what her body could handle. "I'm truly sorry for your loss." The room seemed to tilt and sway. Anna felt herself slide down the wall until she was sitting on the cold hospital floor. A nurse helped her to a chair, offered her water, spoke soft words that Anna couldn't hear through the roaring in her ears. Hours later, after papers were signed and arrangements were made, Anna found herself in the back of Miguel's truck again, this time with a small coffin beside her. The hospital had provided it, a simple wooden box for a child who would never grow up. The return journey to San Miguel passed in silence. Anna sat with her hand on the coffin, unable to cry, unable to speak. The pain was too vast, too complete. It had hollowed her out, leaving nothing but an empty shell. News of Lucia's death had reached the village before they did. As the truck pulled into San Miguel, people lined the streets. Women wept openly. Men removed their hats in respect. Children stood wide-eyed and confused, sensing the gravity of the moment without fully understanding it. Anna's sister, Teresa, was waiting at Anna's home. She helped Miguel carry the small coffin inside, placing it on the kitchen table, the same table where Lucia had eaten her meals, done her homework, drawn pictures of mountains and suns and flowers. "I've prepared the house," Teresa said softly. "People will come tonight for the vigil." Anna nodded mechanically. In their tradition, the dead remained at home for one night, allowing family and friends to pay their respects before burial. Tomorrow, they would take Lucia to the small cemetery on the hill. As darkness fell, the house filled with villagers bringing food, candles, and quiet condolences. They surrounded Anna with their presence, sharing stories of Lucia, her kindness, her curiosity, her laughter. Each memory was both a comfort and a knife to Anna's heart. She sat beside the coffin all night, unable to sleep, unable to leave her daughter alone in the dark. As others dozed or spoke in hushed tones, Anna whispered to Lucia, telling her all the things she wished she'd said when her daughter could still hear her. "I should have taken you to the city sooner," she murmured, guilt crushing her chest. "I should have known it was serious. I'm so sorry, my sunshine." Morning came with soft pink light and birdsong that seemed cruel in its beauty. Today was the day Anna would have to say a final goodbye to her only child, her reason for living. The thought was unbearable, impossible. Yet the hours moved forward, pulling her toward the inevitable moment. The small church bell rang, calling the village to gather. Men arrived to serve as pallbearers. The priest came with his prayer book and solemn eyes. It was time. Anna stood by the coffin, her hand resting on the smooth wood. In just moments, they would close it, and she would never see Lucia's face again. The thought sent a wave of panic through her body. "Wait," she said, her voice breaking the somber silence. "Just one more minute, please." The villagers exchanged glances of understanding and stepped back, giving Anna a final private moment with her child. She leaned over the coffin, memorizing every detail of Lucia's face, the curve of her cheeks, the sweep of her eyelashes, the small dimple in her chin. Anna reached out with trembling fingers to brush a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. "Goodbye, my sunshine," she whispered, her tears finally falling onto Lucia's still face. "Mama loves you. Always." Anna nodded to the pallbearers. It was time to close the coffin. The village priest, Father Domingo, stepped forward as the pallbearers prepared to close the coffin. His kind eyes met Anna's and he placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Would you like a few more moments?" he asked softly. Anna shook her head. If she didn't let go now, she never would. The weight of grief pressed down on her chest, making each breath a struggle. She stepped back, watching as the men carefully lowered the lid over Lucia's peaceful face. The sound of the wood settling into place echoed through the small room like a final heartbeat. Teresa wrapped an arm around her sister's waist, supporting her as Anna swayed slightly on her feet. The sisters had lost their parents years ago and now they only had each other. "I'm here," Teresa whispered. "I'm right here with you." Outside, the village had gathered. News traveled quickly in San Miguel, and there wasn't a single family who hadn't come to pay their respects. Anna blinked in the bright morning sunlight as she stepped onto her porch. The dirt road leading from her small house to the cemetery on the hill was lined with neighbors holding wildflowers and candles despite the daylight. The pallbearers lifted Lucia's coffin, adjusting its weight on their shoulders. It was so small, so light, a terrible reminder of how young she had been. Father Domingo moved to the front of the gathering, his worn prayer book in hand. He began to recite the traditional prayers, his voice carrying through the hushed crowd. "Let us begin our journey to lay this child to rest," he said. The procession formed naturally with Anna and Teresa directly behind the coffin. Anna clutched a small bundle in her hands, Lucia's favorite stuffed rabbit, worn threadbare from years of love, and a wooden rosary that had belonged to Anna's mother. These would go with Lucia, keeping her company in the earth. The walk to the cemetery would take nearly 30 minutes up the winding path that overlooked the valley. Each step felt impossible to Anna, yet somehow her feet kept moving forward. The morning was beautiful, cruelly so. Birds sang in the trees, and wildflowers dotted the path with splashes of yellow and purple. She loved mornings like this, Anna said quietly to Teresa. She would run ahead of me on this path chasing butterflies. Teresa squeezed her hand. She's chasing butterflies now, in heaven. The cemetery of San Miguel sat on the highest point of the village, a peaceful place, surrounded by old oak trees. Generations of villagers rested there, their graves marked with simple stones and wooden crosses. Many were decorated with colorful offerings, photographs, favorite possessions, candles that never seemed to go out despite the wind. The small grave had been dug early that morning by the men of the village. It waited now, a dark rectangle, cut into the earth. Anna stopped at the sight of it, her legs suddenly unable to carry her further. How could she place her sunshine in that cold ground? "I can't," she whispered. "Teresa, I can't do this." Father Domingo overheard her words and paused the procession. He turned to face Anna, his weathered face full of compassion. "Anna," he said, gently, "I have lived in this village for 40 years. I have buried grandparents, parents, and yes, sometimes children. It is never easy. It is never right. But I can tell you this. Lucia is not in that box. What made her Lucia, her laugh, her spirit, her love, that cannot be contained by wood and earth, that lives on." Anna looked at the old priest through her tears. His words didn't take away the pain, but they gave her the strength to take the next step, and then another. They reached the graveside. The coffin was placed on wooden planks that spanned the open grave. The villagers formed a circle, their faces solemn. Many of the women were weeping quietly, and even the men struggled to maintain their composure. Lucia had been loved by everyone. Father Domingo began the burial service. his words mixing with the sound of birds and the gentle rustle of leaves. Anna stood at the edge of the grave, Teresa's arm around her shoulders. The words washed over her, familiar phrases that had been spoken over graves for centuries, yet they felt hollow now, unable to capture the magnitude of her loss. When it came time for the final blessing, Father Domingo invited Anna to place her offerings in the coffin. With trembling hands, she stepped forward. The pallbearers carefully removed the lid one last time. Anna looked down at her daughter's face. In the dappled sunlight filtering through the trees, Lucia looked as if she might be sleeping. Anna leaned down and placed the stuffed rabbit next to Lucia's hand and the rosary around her small fingers. "For your journey, my sunshine," she whispered. "So you won't be alone." As Anna straightened, something caught her attention. Perhaps it was a trick of the light or the movement of shadows through the leaves above, but she thought she saw Lucia's eyelids flutter. Anna froze, her heart suddenly pounding. "Wait," she said, her voice barely audible. Father Domingo looked at her questioningly. "Anna?" She leaned closer to the coffin, her eyes fixed on Lucia's face. Had she imagined it? Was her grief playing cruel tricks on her? Then she heard it. A sound so faint that if there had been even the slightest breeze it would have been lost. A soft exhalation, like a sigh. "Lucia?" Anna's voice shook with fear and impossible hope. The villagers exchanged concerned glances. Teresa stepped forward, placing a hand on Anna's arm. "Anna, it's time to say goodbye," she said gently, assuming her sister was simply struggling with the final moment. But Anna shook her head vigorously. "No, I heard something. I saw—" Her eyes moved. Father Domingo approached, his face filled with sympathy. "Sometimes in our grief we see what our hearts desperately wish to see." "No." Anna's voice rose with sudden certainty. She placed her hand on Lucia's chest, holding her breath as she waited. The seconds stretched like hours. The villagers watched, in uneasy silence, not knowing what to do. Death was familiar to them, a natural part of life in a place where medical care was limited. But they had never seen a mother refuse to accept it quite like this. Then under her palm, Anna felt it, a movement so slight it was barely perceptible, the faintest rise of Lucia's chest. "She's breathing," Anna cried out, her voice breaking with emotion. "Lucia is breathing." The crowd erupted in confused murmurs. Father Domingo leaned in, placing his own hand next to Anna's. His eyes widened. "Dios mío," he whispered. Don Pablo pushed his way through the crowd, his medical bag still in hand. He had come directly from treating another patient to the funeral. He reached the coffin and quickly assessed the situation, pressing his fingers against Lucia's neck. "There's a pulse," he confirmed, his voice heavy with disbelief. "It's very weak, but it's there." A collective gasp went up from the villagers. Some crossed themselves, others began to pray aloud, and a few stepped back in fear, as if witnessing something unnatural. "Get her out of there," Don Pablo instructed, already opening his medical bag. Carefully, Anna and Miguel lifted Lucia from the coffin, laying her gently on a blanket that someone had rushed to spread on the ground. Don Pablo knelt beside her, checking her vital signs with methodical precision, though his hands trembled slightly. "How is this possible?" Teresa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "The doctors in the city said—" "I don't know," Don Pablo admitted. "I've heard of cases, very rare, where people appear dead but are actually in a deep coma. The heartbeat and breathing become so faint that they're almost impossible to detect without special equipment." Anna cradled Lucia's head in her lap, brushing her fingers through her daughter's hair. "She's alive," she repeated, as if saying it would make it more real. "My sunshine is alive." The initial shock gave way to urgent action. Miguel was all ready, running to get his truck. Don Pablo prepared a makeshift stretcher using a wooden door taken off its hinges. Father Domingo led the villagers in prayers. No longer prayers for the dead, but desperate pleas for Lucia's survival. "We need to get her back to the hospital immediately," Don Pablo said. "She's alive, but just barely. Whatever caused her, illness hasn't gone away. Anna nodded, her mind racing. The same hospital that had declared Lucia dead would now be asked to save her life. Would they believe what had happened? Would they treat her seriously? "I'm coming too," Teresa said firmly. "You shouldn't be alone." Miguel's truck roared up the cemetery path, an unusual sound in this peaceful place. The men carefully lifted Lucia onto the makeshift stretcher and then into the back of the truck. Ana and Teresa climbed in beside her, while Don Pablo took the passenger seat next to Miguel. "Drive carefully but as fast as you can," Don Pablo instructed. "Every minute counts now." As the truck pulled away, the villagers remained in the cemetery, standing around the empty grave. Some were weeping, others praying, all of them trying to process what they had just witnessed. Father Domingo raised his hands to the sky. "A miracle has happened here today," he announced, his voice breaking with emotion. "Let us pray that it continues." In the back of the truck, bouncing along the rough mountain road toward the city, Ana held her daughter's hand and whispered promises in her ear. "Hold on, my sunshine. Just hold on. Mama's here, and I'm not letting you go again." Whether it was a miracle, a medical mystery, or simply a mother's refusal to give up, something extraordinary had happened in the cemetery of San Miguel. But as the truck raced toward the city, Ana knew that the fight for Lucia's life was only beginning. The truck bounced and jolted over the rough mountain road, each bump sending a wave of fear through Ana's heart. She held Lucia's small hand between both of hers, trying to warm it with her touch. The child's breathing was shallow, barely there at all, but it was real. After believing her daughter dead, even these faint signs of life seemed like the greatest miracle Ana had ever witnessed. "How much longer?" she called to Miguel, who was driving as fast as he dared on the winding road. "1 hour, maybe less if the road is clear," he replied, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Don Pablo turned in his seat to check on Lucia. His weathered face was tight with concern. "Keep her warm," he instructed. "Talk to her. Sometimes, people in deep comas can still hear." Teresa had wrapped her shawl around Lucia's small body and was gently rubbing the child's feet to improve circulation. The sisters' eyes met over Lucia's still form, a wordless exchange of hope and fear. Ana leaned close to her daughter's ear. "Lucia, my sunshine," she whispered. "We're taking you back to the doctors. They're going to help you get better. You just need to stay with us a little longer." Her voice broke on the last words. "Remember how you wanted to see the ocean?" Ana continued, fighting back tears. "You asked me so many questions about it. How big the waves are, whether the fish talk to each other. I promised I would take you when you turned 7. I'm still keeping that promise, Lucia. We'll go together, just like I said." The small hand in hers remained motionless, but Ana imagined she could feel a faint pulse through her daughter's thin wrist. She clung to that sensation like a lifeline. Teresa squeezed her sister's shoulder. "She's strong like her mother," she said softly. "She's fighting." The mountain road gradually gave way to flatter terrain as they approached the outskirts of the city. Traffic increased, forcing Miguel to slow down. Each delay felt like torture to Ana, who kept her eyes fixed on Lucia's chest, counting the seconds between each shallow breath. "Can't you go faster?" she pleaded as they stopped at a traffic light. "We're almost there," Miguel assured her. 5 more minutes, I know a shortcut." True to his word, they pulled up to the hospital emergency entrance less than 5 minutes later. Miguel honked the horn repeatedly, drawing the attention of the staff inside. 2 nurses rushed out, frowning at the commotion. Their expressions changed to shock when they recognized Ana from the day before. "Please," Ana cried out before they could speak. "My daughter. She's alive. She needs help." One of the nurses, a young woman with kind eyes, approached the truck and looked at Lucia. She placed her fingers against the child's neck, then jerked back in surprise. "Get a gurney!" she shouted to her colleague. "Now!" Everything moved with dizzying speed after that. Lucia was gently transferred to a gurney and rushed inside, with Ana running alongside. Teresa stayed behind to explain the situation to the, hospital staff. "This child was pronounced dead yesterday," Ana heard one doctor say. his voice heavy with disbelief. "Well, she's not dead now," the nurse replied sharply. "Weak pulse, minimal respiratory effort, pupils reactive but sluggish." They wheeled Lucia into a treatment room, a different one from where she had been pronounced dead the day before. A team of medical staff surrounded her immediately, connecting monitors, inserting IVs, placing an oxygen mask over her small face. Anna stood against the wall, her hands pressed to her mouth. The beeping of the heart monitor filled the room, each electronic pulse confirming what she already knew in her heart. Lucia was alive. A doctor Anna hadn't seen before approached her. He was older, with silver hair and glasses perched on his nose. "I'm Dr. Reyes," he introduced himself, "head of neurology. Can you tell me what happened?" Anna explained everything: Lucia's initial symptoms, the village medic's suspicions, the pronouncement of death, and the miraculous discovery at the cemetery. Dr. Reyes listened without interrupting, though his eyebrows rose several times. "And the doctor who pronounced her dead?" he asked when she finished. "I don't remember his name," Anna admitted. "Everything was—" "I was not thinking clearly." Dr. Reyes nodded with understanding. "We'll look at the records. In the meantime, we need to run some tests to understand what's happening with Lucia." "What's wrong with her?" Anna asked, her voice breaking. "Why did everyone think she was dead?" The doctor's eyes were kind but serious. "I suspect what your daughter experienced is something called catalepsy, a condition where the body becomes rigid and vital signs drop to levels so low they can be nearly impossible to detect without specialized equipment. It can be triggered by certain types of brain infections or seizure disorders." He guided Anna to a chair. "This is extremely rare, but it does happen. There are documented cases throughout medical history of people being mistakenly declared dead due to this condition." "Will she wake up?" Anna asked, her voice small. "I can't make promises," Dr. Reyes said gently. "But we're going to do everything we can. The fact that she's maintained these vital signs during transport is a very good sign." Teresa appeared at the doorway, her face flushed from running. "The hospital administrator is coming," she warned. "There's a lot of confusion about what's happening." Dr. Reyes straightened his white coat. "I'll handle the administration. You stay with your daughter." As he left, Teresa took the seat beside Anna. The sisters watched as nurses continued to work on Lucia, checking her responses, adjusting medications, monitoring the various machines now connected to her small body. "It's real, isn't it?" Anna whispered. "I'm not dreaming this?" Teresa took her hand. "It's real. Our Lucia came back to us." Word of what had happened spread through the hospital like wildfire. Nurses and doctors found reasons to pass by Lucia's room, glancing in with undisguised curiosity. Some whispered about miracles. Others spoke of medical malpractice. A few older staff members mentioned stories they'd heard about similar cases from decades past. By evening, Lucia had been moved to the pediatric intensive care unit. The room was quiet except for the steady beeping of monitors and the soft hiss of oxygen. Anna sat at her daughter's bedside, refusing all suggestions that she rest or eat. "I won't leave her again," she told Teresa firmly. Dr. Reyes returned with results from initial tests. "The infection in her brain is severe," he explained, showing them scan images that meant nothing to Anna but clearly concerned the doctor. "We've started her on powerful antibiotics and anti-inflammatory medications. The next 48 hours will be critical." "But she has a chance?" Anna asked, clinging to hope. "Yes," the doctor confirmed. "A real chance. Children are remarkably resilient." That night, Anna kept vigil at Lucia's bedside. Teresa finally convinced her to eat a small meal brought by one of the nurses, but Anna wouldn't consider leaving to sleep. She dozed in the chair beside Lucia's bed, her hand always touching some part of her daughter, her arm, her hand, her foot, as if the physical connection could anchor Lucia to this world. In the darkest hours of the night, when the hospital corridors were quiet and even Teresa had fallen asleep in a chair in the corner, Anna thought she felt a change. Lucia's fingers twitched slightly in her grasp. Anna sat up straight, suddenly wide awake. "Lucia," she whispered. The child's eyelids fluttered but didn't open. Another small movement of her fingers. Anna pressed the call button urgently. A night nurse appeared within moments. She moved, Anna explained, her heart racing. Her fingers moved and her eyes. The nurse checked Lucia's vitals and shined a small light in her eyes. Her responses are definitely improving, she confirmed with a smile. I'll page Dr. Reyes. By morning, the improvement was unmistakable. Lucia's breathing had strengthened and she had shown several more signs of responsiveness. When Dr. Reyes pressed firmly on her fingernail during his morning rounds, she actually pulled her hand away, a response that made Anna burst into tears of joy. The antibiotics are working, Dr. Reyes explained. The swelling in her brain is beginning to subside. She's not out of danger yet, but these are very promising signs. News of Lucia's improvement had already reached San Miguel. Miguel arrived mid-morning with a small delegation from the village, including Father Domingo. They brought food, flowers, and messages of support from everyone in the community. The whole village is praying for her, Father Domingo told Anna. Many are calling it a miracle. The doctors say it's something called catalepsy, Anna explained, a condition that made her appear dead. Father Domingo smiled gently. Science and faith often tell the same story in different languages. Whether you call it catalepsy or a miracle, the result is the same. Lucia has been returned to us. By afternoon, more visitors had arrived from the village, bringing handmade cards from the school children and a small stuffed bear to replace the rabbit that had been left in the coffin. The hospital staff, initially strict about visitor limitations, made exceptions when they saw how much the community support meant to Anna. As the sun began to set, painting the hospital room in warm golden light, Anna sat holding Lucia's hand and singing softly. An old lullaby her mother had sung to her. She felt a light squeeze on her fingers and looked down to see Lucia's eyes open slightly, focusing on her face. Mama? The word was barely audible, a breath more than a sound. But, to Anna, it was the most beautiful thing she had ever heard. I'm here, my sunshine, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm right here. Lucia's eyes closed again, the brief moment of consciousness exhausting her still recovering body. But her hand remained curled around Anna's finger. A promise, a connection, a miracle in the fading light of day. For 3 days, Lucia drifted between consciousness and sleep. Each time she opened her eyes, she stayed awake a little longer. Each time she spoke, her voice grew a little stronger. The doctors called her progress remarkable. The nurses called her their little miracle. Anna simply called it answered prayers. On the 4th morning, Anna woke to find Lucia watching her from the hospital bed. The oxygen mask had been replaced with a small tube under her nose, and some of the monitors had been removed. Most importantly, there was recognition in her eyes. Clear, alert recognition. Good morning, sunshine, Anna said softly, straightening in the chair where she'd spent yet another night. Morning, Mama, Lucia replied. Her voice was raspy from disuse, but the sound of it brought tears to Anna's eyes. Why are you crying? Anna smiled through her tears. Because I'm happy. So very happy to hear your voice. Lucia looked around the hospital room with curiosity. Where are we? We're in the hospital in the city. You've been very sick. The child's forehead wrinkled in concentration. I remember my head hurting, and then... She paused, confused. I had a strange dream. I was floating above everyone, watching. You were crying, there was a box... Her voice trailed off. Anna took Lucia's hand, unsure how much to explain. How do you tell a 6-year-old that she had been declared dead? That she had nearly been buried? The memory sent a chill through Anna's body. Dr. Reyes saved her from having to answer. He entered the room with his usual calm presence, smiling when he saw Lucia awake. Good morning, young lady, he said, approaching the bed. I'm Dr. Reyes. How are you feeling today? My head still hurts a little, Lucia answered. And I'm hungry. The doctor laughed. Hunger is an excellent sign. He turned to Anna. Perhaps we can try some real food today. Something light, broth, gelatin, Maybe some applesauce. He performed his examination, checking Lucia's eyes, testing her reflexes, asking her simple questions about her name, age, and favorite things. Anna watched anxiously, searching for any sign that the infection had caused lasting damage to her daughter's mind. When he finished, Dr. Reyes gestured for Anna to follow him into the hallway. Teresa, who had just arrived with fresh coffee, stayed with Lucia. Her neurological responses are remarkably good, the doctor said quietly once they were outside. Better than I would have expected given the severity of the infection and the unusual circumstances. Will she recover completely? Anna asked. Dr. Reyes considered his words carefully. In cases like this, it's difficult to predict the long-term outcome. The brain is complex and healing takes time. She may experience some challenges, headaches, difficulty concentrating, possibly some memory issues. But children have an amazing capacity for recovery. Their brains can often rewire and adapt in ways that adult brains cannot. He placed a reassuring hand on Anna's shoulder. What matters most right now is that she's alive, she's awake, and she's showing excellent signs of cognitive function. Anna nodded, blinking back tears. After coming so close to losing Lucia forever, any future with her daughter, even one with challenges, was a gift beyond measure. When can I take her home? She asked. Not for at least another week, Dr. Reyes replied. We need to complete the full course of antibiotics and monitor her recovery. And even after discharge, she'll need close follow-up care. Anna's heart sank. The cost of the hospital stay was already far beyond what she could afford. Another week, plus follow-up care? It seemed impossible. Dr. Reyes seemed to read her thoughts. Don't worry about the expenses for now, he said gently. Your story has touched many people here. We'll find a way to make it work. When Anna returned to the room, she found Lucia giggling at something Teresa had said. The sound was like music, a sound Anna had feared she would never hear again. Throughout the day, hospital staff found excuses to visit Lucia's room. News of her awakening had spread quickly. Some brought small gifts, a coloring book, crayons, a stuffed animal. Others simply wanted to see for themselves the child who had defied death. By evening, Lucia had managed to eat half a bowl of broth and a few spoonfuls of applesauce. She had colored 3 pictures and listened to Teresa read a story from a book one of the nurses had brought. Her energy came in short bursts, followed by periods of exhaustion, but each wakeful moment was stronger than the last. As night fell, Anna tucked the blankets around her daughter, marveling at how quickly life had returned to normal routines, even in this strange hospital setting. Will you sing to me? Lucia asked sleepily. Anna smiled and began the lullaby she had sung every night since Lucia was born. Halfway through the song, Lucia's eyes drifted closed, her breathing deepening into sleep. Teresa, who had stepped out to make a phone call to the village, returned with an excited expression. You won't believe what's happening, she said in a hushed voice, careful not to wake Lucia. What is it? The story has gotten out. About Lucia coming back. About the funeral that wasn't. A reporter from the national newspaper was in the village today, interviewing people. And there's a television crew coming tomorrow. They want to talk to you to tell Lucia's story. Anna frowned. I don't want strangers bothering Lucia. She needs rest. Of course, Teresa agreed quickly. But Anna, think about it. This could help with the medical bills. And more importantly, it could help other families. What if there are other children in remote villages who have the same condition? What if we could prevent this from happening to someone else? The thought gave Anna pause. The horror of nearly burying her living child was something no parent should experience. I'll talk to them, she decided. But only me, not Lucia, and only if Dr. Reyes approves. The next morning brought the first complications of Lucia's recovery. She woke with a high fever and complained that the light hurt her eyes. Dr. Reyes ordered new tests and adjusted her medications. Anna's brief moment of relief gave way to renewed fear. It's not unusual to have setbacks, the doctor explained. The infection was severe. Recovery isn't always a straight line forward. The television crew that had been scheduled to interview Anna was politely turned away. Teresa handled them, explaining the situation while Anna remained at Lucia's bedside, applying cool compresses to her daughter's forehead and whispering reassurances. By evening, the fever had broken, and Lucia was resting more comfortably. Dr. Reyes stopped by on his way home to check on her. "The new antibiotics are working," he said, reviewing the latest test results. "And I've arranged for a neurologist colleague of mine, a specialist in pediatric brain infections, to consult on Lucia's case. She'll be here tomorrow." Anna thanked him, touched by his dedication. "Why are you doing so much for us?" she asked. "We're just one case among many." Dr. Reyes smiled thoughtfully. "In 30 years of medicine, I've never seen a case quite like Lucia's. It's professionally fascinating." His expression softened. "And personally moving. We doctors don't often get second chances with patients. This feels like a gift to all of us." The specialist who arrived the next day was Dr. Chen, a woman with a gentle manner and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She reviewed Lucia's entire case, examined her thoroughly, and studied all the test results. "Your daughter has experienced something extremely rare," she explained to Anna afterward. "What we call Lazarus syndrome, named after the biblical figure who was raised from the dead. In medical literature, there are only a few dozen well-documented cases. Will it happen again?" Anna asked, her greatest fear put into words. "It's unlikely," Dr. Chen assured her. "Most cases are associated with a specific trigger. In Lucia's case, the brain infection that caused her vital signs to drop to nearly undetectable levels. As she recovers from the infection, the risk diminishes." The specialist recommended additional medications and a specific rehabilitation plan for when Lucia was ready to leave the hospital. She also asked permission to include Lucia's case, without using their names, in a medical journal. "The more doctors know about this condition, the less likely it is that others will experience what you went through," she explained. Anna agreed without hesitation. If their ordeal could prevent another family from the same experience, some good would come from their suffering. Over the next few days, Lucia's improvement accelerated. She began physical therapy to regain her strength after so many days in bed. The therapist, a cheerful woman named Pilar, turned exercises into games that made Lucia laugh. Each day she could walk a little farther, stay awake a little longer, eat a little more. 10 days after she had been rushed back to the hospital, 16 days after she had first fallen ill, Dr. Reyes declared that Lucia was ready to go home. There would be medications to continue, exercises to perform, and regular trips back to the city for checkups, but she could return to San Miguel. "Remember, recovery takes time," he cautioned Anna. "She'll tire easily. She may have good days and bad days, but children are resilient, and Lucia has proven she's a fighter." The news of their homecoming spread quickly through the village. Miguel arrived with his truck, decorated with flowers and colorful streamers. Teresa had gone ahead to prepare Anna's house, and reported that the entire village was planning a welcome celebration. As Anna helped Lucia dress in new clothes that Teresa had brought from home, she marveled at the journey they had taken, from the depths of despair to the heights of joy, from a funeral procession to a homecoming parade, all in the span of 2 weeks. "Are we going home now, Mama?" Lucia asked, her eyes bright with excitement. "Yes, sunshine," Anna replied, helping her with her shoes. "We're going home." Hand in hand, they walked out of the hospital room that had been their world for so many days. Ahead of them lay recovery, challenges, and questions still to be answered. But they would face it all together, a mother and daughter given a second chance at life. The road back to San Miguel seemed different somehow, brighter, more alive with color and possibility. Anna sat in the back of Miguel's truck with Lucia nestled against her side, watching her daughter's face as she took in the familiar landscape with new eyes. "Look, Mama, the bluebirds are following us." Lucia pointed to a pair of mountain bluebirds darting alongside the vehicle. "They're welcoming you home," Anna said, kissing the top of her head. The drive that had once seemed endless now passed too quickly. Before Anna was ready, the small cluster of buildings that made up San Miguel came into view. As they approached, she gasped. The entire village had gathered at the entrance to town. A hand-painted banner hung between two trees. "Welcome home, Lucia." Miguel slowed the truck to a crawl as they entered the village. People lined the road, waving and calling out blessings. Children ran alongside the vehicle, trying to catch glimpses of Lucia. Some of the older women were openly weeping with joy. "Why, is everyone here?" Lucia asked, her eyes wide with wonder. How could Anna explain what had happened in a way a 6-year-old could understand? "They missed you," she said simply. "Everyone was very worried when you were sick, and now they're happy. You're better." Father Domingo stepped forward as the truck came to a stop in front of Anna's small house. The old priest's eyes shone with emotion as he helped Anna and Lucia down from the vehicle. "Our prayers have been answered," he said, his voice breaking slightly. He bent down to Lucia's level. "The whole village has been waiting for you, little one." Lucia smiled shyly, suddenly overwhelmed by all the attention. She pressed closer to Anna's side, half hiding behind her mother's skirt. Anna's house had been transformed. Fresh flowers filled every available container. New curtains hung in the windows. The kitchen table was laden with food, contributions from every family in the village. Someone had even painted Lucia's bedroom a cheerful yellow. "The color of sunshine," Teresa explained with a wink at her niece's nickname. The welcome celebration lasted into the evening. Though Lucia tired quickly and had to be put to bed early, the villagers continued their quiet celebration. It wasn't just Lucia they were celebrating, Anna realized. It was life itself, its fragility, its preciousness, and its unexpected turns. The first weeks at home established a new routine. Every morning Anna would help Lucia with the exercises Dr. Reyes had prescribed. Every evening, they would sit together on the porch swing, watching the sunset and talking about the day. Anna never rushed these conversations, savoring each word from her daughter's lips as the gift it was. Recovery wasn't always smooth. Lucia suffered from headaches that sometimes left her curled up in bed with the curtains drawn against the light. Occasionally, her right hand would tremble uncontrollably, frustrating her attempts to draw or write. And there were nightmares, frightening dreams she couldn't quite explain but that left her crying out in the darkness. During these difficult moments, Anna would gather her daughter close and whisper, "We're on this journey together, my sunshine. One step at a time." A month after their return home, Dr. Reyes called with unexpected news. A medical foundation in the capital had learned of Lucia's case and wanted to help. They were offering to cover all of her ongoing medical expenses and to provide transportation to and from appointments. They're also interested in setting up a small clinic in San Miguel, Dr. Reyes explained. They believe what happened to Lucia highlights the need for better medical care in rural areas. Would you be willing to meet with their representatives? Anna agreed immediately. The thought that other families might be spared their ordeal gave purpose to their suffering. The representatives arrived the following week, 3 doctors and a program director from the foundation. They met in Anna's living room with Lucia playing quietly in the corner, occasionally glancing curiously at the visitors. "We'd like to establish a basic medical facility here," the program director explained. "Nothing elaborate, a clinic with essential equipment and medications staffed by a trained nurse who could recognize serious conditions quickly and arrange transport to city hospitals when needed." "That would be wonderful," Anna said, thinking of how different things might have been if such a clinic had existed when Lucia first fell ill. "We'd also like your help," one of the doctors added. "Your story is powerful. It could help us raise awareness and funding for similar clinics in other remote areas." Anna hesitated. "I'm not comfortable with Lucia being in the spotlight. She's been through enough." "We understand completely," the program director assured her. "We're more interested in having you speak to medical professionals and community leaders. Your experience as a mother, the human side of this story, is what people need to hear." Later that night, after Lucia was asleep, Anna sat on her porch with Teresa, considering the foundation's offer. "I've never spoken in front of people," Anna confessed. "The thought terrifies me." Teresa took her hand. "Yet you faced the fear of losing your child. You fought for her when everyone else had given up. Speaking to a room of strangers seemed small compared to that. Anna looked up at the stars so bright in the clear mountain air. If it helps even one family avoid what we went through, I should do it. Her first presentation was at a medical conference in the capital 3 months after Lucia's return home. Anna had practiced her speech countless times, but still her hands trembled as she faced the audience of doctors, nurses, and healthcare administrators. I am not a medical expert, she began. I am simply a mother from a small village called San Miguel. This is the story of how my daughter was pronounced dead, prepared for burial, and then, by what some call miracle and others call medicine, returned to life. As she spoke, her nervousness fell away. The room was silent except for her voice. Every face focused on her words. She described the terror of Lucia's sudden illness, the lack of medical resources in their village, the devastating pronouncement of death, and the moment at the cemetery that changed everything. In the city hospital, with proper equipment and trained doctors, my daughter's condition was recognized and treated, Anna continued. But in our village, without these resources, we nearly buried her alive. How many others have not been as fortunate? How many lives could be saved with basic medical care in rural communities? By the end of her speech, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. The standing ovation lasted several minutes. Over the next year, Anna spoke at a dozen similar events. Each time, her confidence grew. The foundation used her story to raise funds for rural clinics, and construction began on the San Miguel facility, 6 months after her first speech. Meanwhile, Lucia continued to recover. The headaches became less frequent. The tremors in her hand eventually disappeared. She returned to school, where her classmates treated her with a mixture of awe and curiosity. Her experience had changed her in subtle ways. She seemed older than her years sometimes, more thoughtful, more aware of life's fragility. One evening, as Anna and Lucia sat on their porch swing watching the sunset turn the mountains gold, Lucia asked, "Mama, did I really die?" Anna considered the question carefully. "The doctors thought you did. Your heart was beating so softly they couldn't hear it, and you were breathing so gently they couldn't see it." Lucia nodded, processing this information. "I remember some of it, I think, not being in the coffin, but being somewhere else, somewhere peaceful. And then hearing your voice calling me back." Anna pulled her daughter close, kissing the top of her head. "And you came back to me." "I'll always come back to you, Mama," Lucia said with the simple certainty of childhood. 1 year to the day after the funeral that wasn't, the new medical clinic in San Miguel opened its doors. The small building stood on the edge of the village, painted white with a bright red cross above the entrance. It was modest but well-equipped, with examination rooms, basic diagnostic equipment, and a small pharmacy. Most importantly, it had a satellite connection to specialists in the city who could provide remote consultations in complex cases. The ribbon-cutting ceremony drew people from neighboring villages, as well as officials from the capital. Anna and Lucia stood front and center, holding the ceremonial scissors together. "This clinic is named in honor of Lucia," the foundation director announced. A reminder that with proper medical care, what seems like an ending can become a new beginning. As applause erupted, Anna looked down at her daughter, healthy, happy, alive. Then she looked at the clinic that would serve their community for generations to come. From the deepest tragedy had come unexpected blessings. Later that afternoon, Anna and Lucia walked to the cemetery on the hill. They placed flowers on the grave that had been prepared but never used, now marked with a simple stone as a memorial to all the children from rural villages who hadn't received the medical care they needed. "What happens now, Mama?" Lucia asked as they walked hand in hand back down the hill. Anna smiled at her daughter, her miracle, her sunshine, her second chance. "Now we live, my love. We live every day as the gift it is." As they reached the bottom of the hill, Lucia broke into a run, chasing a butterfly through a field of wildflowers. Anna watched her go, her heart full beyond measure. Their story, of death and life, of loss and return, of a mother's love that refused to let go, would be told for generations in San Miguel and beyond. But more important than the story was the reality. Her daughter dancing in the sunlight, very much alive.